Hello! So today I want to chat about 5 places that you need to steer clear of if you're looking for a cheap house in Ireland. Now this is no negative Nancy kind of stuff. It's not places I dislike. It's actually, to be fair, some of the nicest parts of Ireland. But if these are on your short list and you're really struggling to find a cheap house, it's because you can't really find cheap houses in them. So let's get started with number 1. Okay, so the first place I want to talk about today is West Cork. Now, I know everybody loves West Cork. You go there on your holidays, you think it's the most fantastic place in the world, and as soon as you decide that you want to move out of a city, West Cork is the place that you want to live. But the thing about West Cork is, West Cork's pricey. You know, it has a lot of holiday homes. It has people from all over Ireland want to go on their holidays there. People from Cork go on their holidays there, which is quite an unusual thing because a lot of other counties, they go on their holidays to other counties. But in Cork, it's kind of that big of a place that they just stay in Cork and go on their holidays. There's a lot of competition for cheap houses in West Cork. So when they come up, it's kind of like Kerry. When they come up, there are these fantastic tourist areas, these beautiful 2-storey houses, and they come up over 150,000. If you get one close to 100,000, it's going to be very derelict, and the competition is going to be high when it comes to bidding on it. So look a little bit further outside of West Cork. Look at places like Clare, maybe Mayo, places like that, you know, coastal counties that have a little bit more to offer when it comes to value. And just open your mind a little bit and get this West Cork notion out of your head if you only have a budget of about 120,000. Okay, number 2, right? Commuter belts of large cities, right? If where you want to look for your house is within a 40-minute to maybe a 1-hour drive of a very large city in Ireland, it is not going to be cheap. This kind of convenience adds a premium to any house. And so if you decide that you're working in Dublin, you'd really like to stay living in Dublin, but you'll just move a smidge outside, you're still going to have very high house prices. And it's not just Dublin. If you move out of the centre of Galway, the centre of Cork, and you decide, sure, look, I'll just push out a little bit more towards the suburbs, or I'll go maybe one town out, you are still paying a premium for the fact that you can get into your car at maybe 7 o'clock in the morning, you can turn up at work, you can get into your car again in the evening, and you can drive home and be with your family. So commuter belts of large cities are a really big no-no when it comes to looking for a cheap house. The thing that most people don't understand though when it comes to commuter belts of really large cities is actually how far these commuter belts stretch. So take for example Dublin. So I'm from Wexford, born and bred, and like Gorey would be North Wexford and has always been in the commuter belt of Dublin. Since the new roads have gone in over the last couple of years, you're looking at Enniscorthy being prime commuter belt of Dublin. Like, this is far away from Dublin. This is a very long drive, but with the motorways, obviously they get shorter. But I think as soon as you move to the 3rd county outside of a city, you genuinely think, I'll definitely find cheap houses here. Now, you will find cheaper houses than Dublin, but when it comes to the houses that I look at and that we're all looking for, Wexford, Wicklow, Kildare, Meath, Louth, all of these kind of counties, and even the same ones when it comes to close to Galway, close to Cork, all these kind of places, you are paying a premium for the fact that you are within commuting distance of a city. So stay away. Okay, so number 3 isn't all that different to number 2. You need to avoid commuter belts of small cities as well. Now, when I kind of talk about small cities, I'm also kind of lumping in large market towns in Ireland, places that have a very vibrant economy. They've maybe industry going on, they've manufacturing going on. Like take for example Athlone or Portlaoise. If you're living within driving distance of one of those large towns, you are going to pay a premium for that as well. So what you have to do is you have to either try and find a job outside of one of these large towns or cities, or you need to push that drive a little bit further. Make it that that house you buy is so good that it's worth that extra half an hour in the car. It doesn't sound ideal, but the point I'm making is if at the moment a commuter belt of one of these large towns is where you're looking and you're getting so frustrated because you cannot find an affordable house in it, then this is why. You need to scratch them off your list. Your list is going to get small if you can't move much further out, but you are going to have to do it because it is just going to rot you for the next 5 years because you are not going to find anything of any kind of good value there. Okay, number 4. Looking for a cheap Irish house in rural Ireland is one thing, but deciding that you're going to move to rural Ireland and live in Kinsale or Belmullet or, dare I say, West Cork, which we're kind of going back to again, this isn't a great idea. You cannot decide that the place you want to live is the seaside resort that you always went to growing up and then be really kind of annoyed because the houses are really, really expensive in it. Choosing places that are quite expensive to live in, regardless of whether they're in rural Ireland or not, is still going to make it very difficult for you to find a cheap house. So what my advice for number 4 is stay away from seaside resorts. Anything that has any kind of a buzz around it. I'm talking Kilkee in Clare. We were talking Belmullet, Bundoran, any of these places that are set up for this kind of tourism that we all loved when we were growing up. You are going to pay a premium to live there. And the fact that it's in rural Ireland and it's maybe 2 hours drive from Dublin doesn't matter one little bit. There are places outside of Leinster that are expensive to live in, and these seaside resorts are one of them. So stay away from the seaside resorts. I'll be keeping an eye on you. Okay, number 5. Okay, the 5th one I want to talk to you about is proximity to amenities. Now, that sounds very official, but basically what that means is if you decide you want to move to rural Ireland and you can't drive, and one of the criteria you have on that list is that you have to live within walking distance of a train station or within walking distance of a bus service, that is going to put a premium on the price of your house. Everybody wants to live somewhere that has great public transport services, and in rural Ireland, when you live somewhere like that, you have to pay for the fact that you have those conveniences. So if you're living on a main bus route between Cork and Limerick, that's going to cost you more. If you're living on a main bus route between Roscommon and West Clare, it is going to cost you more. You are paying for the convenience of not having to drive a car and being able to kind of get around as best you can. And if you're looking for a cheap house, you need to stop looking at that. What you need to do is you need to get it out of your head that you want to live near a train station or you want to live near a bus route, and you need to start looking a little bit more off the beaten track. Now, I'm not talking far off the beaten track. I'm just talking like off roads that have N numbers on them. Even R-numbered roads are fine. But these big national roads that have these fantastic bus services on them, you are genuinely going to pay a premium for that. So if you get away from those roads, you are going to pay less for your house, and that's what I want you to do. And buy a car, okay? Live in rural Ireland, you buy a car. That's something you just need to get your head around now. Start taking your driving lessons, because it is so much easier and so much safer to live out here if you can at least get around if something goes wrong. Okay, I might have one more extra little one now. Okay, the last place I want you to steer clear of if you're looking for a cheap Irish house is places close to the water. This is a huge one. I hear this all the time. And yes, the dream is to live close to the water. Everybody wants to do that. It is not something that you get with a cheap Irish house unless you're very, very lucky, or you're going to go somewhere that's very, very remote, which, to be fair, a lot of people aren't willing to do. So if you have maybe €100,000 budget and you want to live within maybe Munster counties, you know, like East Munster, and you want a view of the water or you want to be near the water, you are crackers. You need to start getting your head around the idea that all of the things that you want don't just magically become available because you want to move out into rural Ireland. There are still places that are expensive. There are still places that people really, really want to live, and that even people in rural Ireland will pay a premium for and move to those places. So being close to a river, being close to the seaside, being close to a waterfall, anything that is really pretty and water-like costs extra. So get it off your list, okay? Maybe for your second house, you want a cheap house. This is not a deal breaker, okay? This is a luxury. It's not something that you can have on that and go, well, I cannot function with my family. I can't keep my kids safe. I can't keep a roof over my head if I'm not living beside the water. It is 100% pure luxury, and you will get that price of that house down if you move further away from the water. Now, that was a lot of giving out. It wasn't meant to be. What I want to tell you guys is that there are very obvious places that cost extra, and there are very obvious places that cost less. And time again, I'm seeing people asking for the same stuff. So they want to be within a commuter belt. Now, I know, to be fair, the commuter belt thing is different because it's usually a necessity because of work. But like being beside the water, or deciding that you want to live in Belmullet instead of living 15 minutes down the road in a nice little rural part of Mayo, these are things you can change. These are preferences that you're putting on your list, and you are genuinely making your life more difficult for doing it. So look back over this again, take notes, scratch stuff off your list, and you're going to be one step closer to finding a cheap Irish house. Now, rant over. Thank you for watching. Please thumbs up if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe so you see the next video. Bye.